Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. Today we'll continue our lab Marvel and DC United. This is the 13th video. This is the last video in the series. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have created a new Azure virtual machine, and we will use this Azure machine to install some programs like Adobe Reader, VLC, Google Chrome, Firefox. We will change some Windows setting like increasing the virtual RAM, like changing some setting to make the Windows perform the best performance, and do some tips and tweaks. And at the end we will prep this machine and take an image from it to be a template for future deployment of new Azure virtual machines in DC Comics Virtual Network. I will show you a graph just to remember what we have done before. We installed necessary programs like Chrome, Adobe Reader DC, VLC, 7-zip, Classic Shell, okay, and then as I said before we made some changes and create a Windows 10. We made some changes, Windows setting changes, as I said before, like increasing the virtual RAM, like making the icons, necessary icons, appear on the desktop like this PC and control panel, and we have changed the time zone, and we have changed the currency from US dollar to LE, and installed the keyboard English and Arabic layout. All of this has been done, or this is the changes that has been done to the Windows. And then at the end we created a user profile, okay, another local administrator user profile, a second user local administrator, which will be the second local administrator user profile, and we made all of the necessary changes, as I said before, installing different programs and changing different Windows setting, and then making this user profile, or this second user local administrator profile, Windows profile, to be the master, or the Windows 10 master user profile, and use a utility called devprof to make it, or to make this profile to be the default user profile, or the default Windows 10 user profile. I will show you also this in the graph to explain it more. And then after that we make prep to the Azure virtual machine. This Azure virtual machine has Windows 10 Enterprise version 19.03 operating system installed on it. So we made prep, and then after making this prep, the operating system was shut down, and then we began using the Powershell module to through the Powershell module we will take an image from this Azure virtual machine after making the prep. And this Powershell module runs on an Azure storage account. Said before, Azure storage account is something like Google storage account. It's a place on a server, or taking a part of a hard disk on the server of Microsoft, and run the Powershell module on it, especially after the operating system of this Azure virtual machine was shut down due to the prep process. Okay, I will show you also this in a graph to finalize it all. So after using the Powershell module, we made the first command, which is called deallocate Azure virtual machine. This command will power off the Azure virtual machine. Okay, we have here a small note that when you make prep, only the operating system will be shut down on the Azure virtual machine, not the Azure virtual machine itself. So we need to run this deallocate PowerShell command to power off the virtual machine, and then we will make something called generalize. This is something like making prep to the Azure virtual machine itself. So prep, we will make prep to the Windows 10 operating system on the Azure virtual machine, and the generalize option, or the generalize command on the PowerShell, will make the same process as prep, but for the virtual machine itself, not the operating system. And at the end we will capture an image. Okay, and after that this is done through the PowerShell module. Capturing the image was done through the PowerShell module. There is another way to capture an image, but through the Azure portal page, not the Power module. I will show you also this way. And at the end we created a new Azure virtual machine and installed the capture image on it, and then we have joined this Azure virtual machine to the domain, and we began testing our department shares and network map department shares and user home folder directories and login scripts and etc. Okay, all of this we can finalize it, or we can remind you with a small graph that will wrap it all. Here we can see that this is the laptop, and then we go to the Azure portal page, and then we create a new Azure virtual machine. We will name it Marvel PC Marvel 17, and then this is an IP address, and then we begin installing different programs: Chrome, Adobe Reader, VLC, 7-zip, Classic Shell, and then we make some Windows setting changes, or some change of Windows setting, like display this PC and control panel icon on desktop, and then we increase the virtual RAM. As I said before, virtual RAM, it's taking a part of the local hard disk of the machine to act as a RAM, okay, and the virtual RAM should be double the physical RAM. So if you have on your virtual machine the RAM 5 GB for example, so you need to make the virtual RAM to be 10, okay, and then we install Arabic and English keyboard layout, and then we will change the currency and date and time to reflect the country of Cairo, the currency of Egypt, and the local time zone of Cairo. And then at the end we use dev profile to copy master Windows 10 user profile and make it the default profile. What is first, what is a Windows profile? We need to have a small definition of this. A user profile is a collection of settings that make the computer look and work the way you want it for a user account. So it is a bunch of settings. So for example, a bunch of settings means that you can change the background, you can change how the icons look, you can change how much icons appear on the desktop, you can pin some of them to the taskbar, and etc. So all of this is related to the user. So if he logs off, for example, this is my profile, if I logged off and there another user logged in, for example Ahmed, he can do different background setting and different icon setting and different icons pinned to the taskbar, okay. So every user will have his different setting appearing for him only. So if Karim Raouf logged with his Windows user account, he will see his desktop, his backgrounds, his icons, and when Ahmed logs with his Windows user account, he will see his background, different background and different profile, different icons and different setting. So this is what he means by user profile is a collection of settings that make the computer look and work the way you want it for a user account. It is stored in C users, the username. So if I have a Windows 10 user account named Krauf, so this setting will be saved in C users Krauf, okay, and contains account setting for desktop, the different or the collection of setting. This include the background, desktop background, screensaver, so every user can have his own background, own screensaver, own pointer preferences, sound setting and other features, okay. User profile ensure that your personal preferences are used whenever you sign in to the Windows, okay. So this what we were saying. A user profile also contains personal folders such as 3D objects, contacts, desktop, documents, downloads, favorites, links, music, OneDrive, pictures, saved games, searches and video folders. So also when every user logged in with his user or Windows user account, he will have special folders for him. So as Karim, I will have special folders for my videos, for my pictures, for my music, okay. All of this will be related to my Windows user account or Windows user profile. And when I log off and another user logged in like Ahmed, he will have also a folder for his pictures, folder of his videos, folder for his contacts, which will be different than mine. So the profile is not only a collection of settings like the desktop background, screensaver and etc., but is also a collection of personal folders. Every user will have his personal folders that contain his personal things like his music, his videos and so on, so okay. So how Windows or how this user profile is created, okay. There is something called, or there is a profile called Windows 10 default profile. This is the template that when you log in for the first time, it takes a copy of this template and rename it to your username, and then let you change and do the things you need. So this is the user profile that Windows takes a copy of it and then rename it by the username, okay. who logs into the machine for the first time, so he can have his own profile and change his own setting that contains his personal setting. Okay, so if you can see this here, you can see that this is the default profile. Okay, Windows, when I log in for the first time, the Windows will take a copy of this profile and name another one according to my name, which will be C users K-Raouf, and then will give me this profile. I will do my necessary setting, change background, screen show, background, sound, and so and so, and then this will be my profile. But this is the default, or this is the template that Windows take a copy from it, and then take the copy and rename it to the user, and rename it with the name of the user account for the user, for example, like K-Raouf. So we will have here my profile. Okay, so what we will do, we will use the devprof. Okay, it's a program that we will use to do what? To after making my different desktop setting, icons, backgrounds, and so on, so I will take a copy of this profile and make it the default template or the default Windows 10 profile. Okay, so if another user logged in or for the first time, the Windows will take a copy of the default profile, which is now my profile, and then give it to the user. So the final result, we will see that when Batman logs in, he will have the same personal setting, same backgrounds, same icons, same screensaver, and so on. So we have an exact copy of my profile. This will be done in an indirect way by making my profile the default template or the default Windows 10 profile, which the Windows take a copy of it and give it to the user the first time he logs in to the machine, and then and rename it to according to his username, and then the user can begin changing and playing with the setting of this Windows profile. So at the end, I need a master profile that will have all of the necessary changes, backgrounds, screensavers, keyboard layout, or everything will be done in this master user profile, and then we will copy it and make it the default Windows profile, Windows 10 profile, and then if any user logs in for the first time to the Windows 10, he will have his profile the same as my profile. Okay, so devprof updates the Windows default user profile with the documents and setting from another user profile that you specify. The same as I told you, he will update my profile and make it the Windows 10 profile or the Windows 10 user profile. Let's say that you have a user account set up to create a profile that you want everyone logging onto the machine to inherit. So you need to everyone to have the same setting of my Windows 10 profile. Okay, when you log in as setup, Windows creates a C user setup profile. Okay, to make, so what will devprof do? It will take this setup profile and make it the default Windows 10 profile. Okay, so this is basically what we will do by doing or using devprof to copy the master 10 user profile, which is my profile, and make it the default 10 profile. So after doing all of this, we will run a sysprep to the machine. What we mean by sysprep, I just need to show you a small graph just to remember you all with what sysprep process means. Okay, imagine for example this is me and I have lost my memory, so I am now an unknown person, and then they have cloned me to 3 clones. Okay, and after cloning me, then I will begin impersonation, and then I will begin making this person a new person. For example, this will be Muhammad, will be Haitham, will be Nasser. So these 3 will have different IDs. Okay, so they are now completely new persons. They have different ID, different passports, different addresses, but they are having the exact physical shape of mine as Karim. So they have the physical characteristics of the, for example, the color of the eye, the color of the hair. All of them are a typical physical, or their physical characters are typical of me, but they are now different characters with different IDs and different addresses, and so on. So okay, so this is the same that we will do with sysprep. We have a machine which will have a name, and we will install the necessary programs and everything that we have been discussing before, and change a different Windows setting, and then we'll make a sysprep. So this machine will be unknown. Okay, so this machine will be unknown. We will take a copy of it, and then we will clone it to 3 virtual machines. This is we can say this clone to be as creating new Azure virtual machines. Okay, so after creating them, they are still unknown, so we'll begin naming them different PC names and begin working with them. Okay, so now PC Marvel 18, PC Marvel 19, PC Marvel 20, the 3 PCs are the exact, they have the same programs and Windows installed on them, but they have different names and different IDs from me. So we share the same programs and same Windows installed on them and me as well, but I have a different name, a different ID, and they have a different name, a different ID. Okay, so this is the way, or this is how the sysprep works. Okay, so why we do this, why we make a sysprep to the machine, why we don't clone it and work it directly? Because if we clone it without making a sysprep, then all of the machines will have the same name and the same ID, so this will make a conflict in the network. So if we do like this, so all the same will have the same name as Kareem, and this will make a conflict. So if we have 3 Kareems and this is the 4th one, we will not know which one is the real one. So this is the same. If we have PC Marvel, we didn't make sysprep, so now we will have 4 machines are PC Marvel 17, and we don't know which is the original one. Okay, so now what we will do, let's revise again. So now we created the Azure virtual machine, installed the different programs, change the different Windows setting, use the devprof program to make my Windows user profile to be the default Windows profile, and then we will make a sysprep, and we will check generalize, and then shut down. This will make sysprep to the machine, and then it will shut the Windows 10 operating system on this Azure virtual machine. It will shut it down, and then we will begin opening our Azure Power module, okay, which will be running on an Azure Azure storage account. As I said before, Azure storage account, this is a part on the hard disk of Microsoft. We will run the PowerShell module on it, and then after that we will begin running 3 commands. One, to power off the virtual machine, which will be deallocate, because the power off of the virtual machine is different than the shutdown of the operating system on the Azure virtual machine. This is 2 different processes anyway. So we will power off the virtual machine, we will generalize the virtual machine, which is like sysprepping the Windows 10 operating system but for the Azure virtual machine itself, and at the end we will create an image. So this will be PC Marvel template, okay, and then when we create a new Azure virtual machine, we will browse our public and private images. So here we can choose the operating system to install on the Azure virtual machine, and instead we will browse and then go to my items, and then we will use the template or the image that we have taken from a couple of minutes. So this is the process of making the Azure virtual machine template, and how to install it and how to operate it. And after installing the image on a Azure virtual machine, we have joined this Azure virtual machine to the domain and begin testing different home user profiles and network mapped drive for department shares and login scripts and etc. Okay, so in this video we'll begin discussing something, or we'll begin talking with more details on the Azure storage account. Okay, so what's an Azure storage account? Okay, the storage component of Windows Azure represents a durable storage in the cloud. This is, I said before, it's a store on Windows or Microsoft Azure servers, okay, or Microsoft it's a part, or this is a part of the hard disk of Microsoft that we use it as a storage. Okay, so Azure allows developers to store tables, database tables, blobs and messages queues. The storage can be accessed through HTTP. You can also create your own client, although Windows Azure SDK provides a client library for it. Means that you can use a program to access this Azure storage account, or you can use a normal browser to access this storage account. So we will see that in the lab. Anyway, when you create this Azure storage account, how this will be done: first of all, we go to see the services, we can see here something called storage accounts. So how we will create it, we will go and tell him new, and then we will check on storage and then storage account. Okay, so when you create a storage account, he just a minute, here we can see that you need to choose the resource group that you will have this storage account created on. So this will be, for example, Marvel domain. This is our first resource group that we have created our Marvel virtual networks and Azure on Marvel virtual machines on it, and then we will have a name for this Azure account, the location of the storage account or the region that will have this Azure storage account created on, and then we will have one of the important options, which is something called replication. Okay, so we leave everything as it is. We will leave the performance for standard and account type to be storage version 2 general purpose. So we have a lot of kinds of storage accounts. So the one that we will use, it's called storage version 2 general purpose. Okay, I can just see here, or we can just browse it, or we can just know more about it. Azure, what can we see here? It's Azure account kind, okay, storage account kind. Just a minute. So here we have something called from the graph. We will see that in the lab, but I will show you over here. We can see that the location, we have said before, the performance, it is standard or premium, and then we will show also what is the performance. Here we are asking about the account kind. The account kind, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The first one, basic storage account for blobs, files, queues and tables, recommended for most scenarios using Azure storage. General purpose version 1 accounts, legacy account for blobs, file queues, use general purpose 2 instead when possible. Okay, so he's telling us that the same are used, but it recommends to you, or they are the same purpose, but it recommends you to use version 2. Okay, blob storage accounts with premium performance. Okay, so it's premium performance than the other two. Characteristic for blobs and append blobs, recommended for scenarios with high transaction rates. For example, if you have a lot of transactions on this Azure storage account, so you need to use blob storage account, or scenarios that you use smaller objects, okay, or require consistently low storage latency. Okay, so here he's saying that you can use this type of account when you have high transaction rates, or scenarios you have smaller objects or require consistency, low storage latency. So you don't need to have delay in writing and saving your data on the storage account. So you need high performance storage. Okay, you don't need low required consistently low storage latency. Okay, and then there is something called file storage accounts. File only store accounts with premium performance characteristics, recommended for enterprise or high performance scale applications. Okay, and at the end we have blob storage accounts. Legacy blob storage accounts use general purpose 2 accounts instead when possible. So he is recommending you to use the first one as always, or to be as a default, and the rest are in different scenarios. Okay, so this is what we mean by the storage account types. And as for let's say what is the storage account, let's say storage account performance. Okay, so here we can see that is called Azure block account has two different performance tiers: premium, optimized for high transaction rates and single digit consistent storage latency; standard, optimized for high capacity and high throughput. So they are two they are optimized, but this is more optimized for high transaction rates, and the other is a standard one. It will have high capacity and high throughput, but this is more in performance. Okay, so I just need to do something else here. Need to go and see, just a minute. We will here say Azure kind, and then we can see here if there is more description about it. So general purpose supports at least, okay, recommends, you can easily upgrade. Anyway, so now we have discussed this. Just a moment, we get to the graph again. So here we will choose the account name, the account performance, the account kind, and then we will go to something called replication. Okay, so what means by replication? You can see that there is an option called replication drop down. A copy of the data is kept that is durable and available at high speed. It is retained even in case of hardware failure. So he means that by replication he will replicate your storage account, so the data on your storage account to be replicated in different places, so it will not be lost. So we have what we have: 1, 2, 3. We have 4 kinds of replication. Locally redundant storage: a copy of the data is created in the same region where your storage account is created. There are 3 copies of each request made against the data that resides on separate domains. So what we mean by the same region, if we can see a small graph here, just a moment. Here we can see that, for example, Marvel domain, it's in the data center of Microsoft in US East. So this data center contains a lot of servers, so your storage account, for example, will be on one of them. So we will copy your storage account data from one server to the different servers in the same region. Okay, so this is what we mean by locally redundant storage. Okay, so this is the first one. Zone redundancy storage, available for blobs only. A copy of the data is created on separate facilities, either in the same region, so in the same, or across 2 regions. The advantage is that even if there is a failure on one facility, the data will still can be retained. 3 copies of the data are created. One more advantage is that the data can be read from a secondary location. So he can save a copy of your data on the same region or 2 regions, and he can read your data not from the same location, but he can read it from a different location. So it's not read and write only, he can read also from a different location. So how we can clarify this? If, for example, we can see here, just a moment, if we can go there, here we can see that this is Marvel domain, it's in Microsoft Data Center region US East, and this is the DC Comics domain, it's Microsoft Data Centers in US Central. So if you have your storage account here, he will replicate it to this data center region. So it will be replicated across different regions or within the different region. Okay, so this is the second option. We have the local redundant storage, the zone redundant storage, the geo redundant storage. It's a copy created in a different region, which means that the data is retained even if there is a failure in the complete region. The numbers of copies created is 6 in cases. Okay, so it can be, for example, you have the same region or 2 regions. Okay, for example, maybe these 2 regions are in the US, so you have one US East and one US Central. Or geo, it will not be in the United States at all, it can be on a server in China, for example. So this is the geo redundant storage. It is like the zone storage, but the zone, it is the same in the same country. So you can, for example, have different regions in the United States. You can have a region in US East, and they have a region in US Central, and a region in US West. So all of these data centers are in the same country, but you can put or replicate your Azure storage account to a completely different data center of Microsoft in a different country. Okay, so this is the geo redundant storage, and at the end we will have something called read access geo redundant storage. This option allows reading of data from a secondary location when data on the primary location is not available. Okay, so the same the number of copies created is 6. The main advantage here is the availability of data can be maximized. Okay, so here he will save your data and take a copy of it in different regions in different countries. Okay, so this is the one that we will choose. We will choose read access geo redundant. So here we will have a copy of our storage Azure storage account and all of its data in different countries in different regions. Okay, so this will be our option. And after that, what we will do, we will have something called file share. We will have a folder, or we will create a folder on this Azure storage account, and we will share it to our Azure virtual machines. Okay, so now we will click on the file shares in the Azure storage account configuration, and then what we will do, we will create a folder and we will give it a quota, for example 20 gigabyte. And at the end, what we will do, we will have like a PowerShell command, so we can map this file share or this folder to be mapped on the Azure virtual machine as a network mapped drive. How this will be done, I will show you all. But after doing this, what we will do, before going to the Azure virtual machine and apply this PowerShell command to have the file share appearing for this Azure virtual machine, which is created on the Azure storage account, we need first to go to the firewall of the Azure virtual machine and allow the port for port 445 to be allowed on the firewall of the Azure virtual machine, because this is for the file sharing protocol. So this need to be opened so you can allow your file shared on the Azure storage account to appear for the Azure virtual machine. And then what we will do after that, we will go here, as I said before, we can here, we'll tell him go to the firewall, okay, networking to the firewall of the machine, and then add inbound rule, and then we can add the port. Okay, and at the end we will go to the PowerShell and run it as administrator and run this command. And at the end, what we will do, we will have our Azure storage account file shared appear as a network mapped drive. We will see all of this when we begin seeing it, how practically, or we'll see it in the video. And at the end, what we will do, at the end I will show you all how you can customize your dashboard. The dashboard is here. You can see a summary of all of your Azure cloud containers or cloud configurable items. Here is all of your virtual machines, your templates, your captured images, your virtual networks, the time, some explanation concerning this Azure virtual network. We'll see how we can configure or how we can customize your dashboard. Okay, and at the end, what we will do, we will export all of the Active Directory objects, users, computers, so and so, in an Excel sheet. So this will be a backup of all of our Active Directory objects, so we can use it as a backup. When something happened to the Active Directory, we can use it as a reference to import it back, or we can use it to recreate the Active Directory objects again. Okay, so this is what we will discuss in this video. We will discuss the Azure storage accounts, how we can use them to store data on it and map this stored data to your Azure virtual machine. Okay, and use it. Okay, we will map and use this Azure storage account by PowerShell script, and at the end we will customize the dashboard for the Azure portal page, and we will export all of the Active Directory objects. And we have discussed the different options concerning the Azure storage account options. Okay, so this is briefly what we will discuss in this video. So let's begin. Here we can see, let's go to the video itself. Here is the Azure, and then we will have our Azure. Okay, so now we can see, or can begin using it. So now we will add an Azure storage account. Okay, So now here we will use our resource group, which will be Marvel. We will create two, one for the Marvel resource group and the other for the DC Comics group. Just a moment, guys. So let's continue here. We will said before, we will leave everything as it is. We will leave it as storage version 2 and standard, and then we will name this storage account to be Marvel. We need it to have numbers and letters, so it should not be only as letters. We need it, and we don't need to have spaces between it, and we should not have capital letters. So let's continue here. We will begin, as I said before, we will choose the name of the account and then the location, which will be US East, which we have all of our Marvel virtual network and virtual Azure virtual machines created on it. We will leave everything as it is, or the default selections, as we have discussed what or each type of selection means. And then he says that you will have public endpoint. So this Azure storage account will have a public IP address, so we can use it to access our storage from outside the Azure virtual network. Okay. Next. Next. So here is the summary of the Azure storage account, and then create. We will pin it to the dashboard, and we will go to the shares. Okay, so here now we need to process all of this. So here what we will do, just a moment. So we'll go to the storage account, and then we will create a file share. Okay, and then we will add the file share. You will name the folder, okay, or the file share. We will name it, for example, Marvel share, and we will put a quota on it, so we will limit this file share to have only 20 GB of data stored on it. And then we'll tell him connect. Okay, from this connect, if we tell him connect, we will have a script that we will use. Okay, so here is the by the way, I have tried to use the first one, but it didn't work correctly, so you need to choose the second command or the second PowerShell script to use it to map this shared folder to the Azure virtual machine. But before doing this, we need to allow the firewall to allow the share protocol or the file share protocol to be allowed through the Azure virtual machine firewall. Okay, so how we do this, we need to go, and we'll go to the Azure virtual machine. Okay, here you go, and then we go to networking. First of all, just a moment. Okay, I think I can show you all. Okay, go to the Azure virtual machine and then go to networking. I think we need, before this, let me show you if we have go to the, so yes, here we go. Then we go to networking for the virtual machine and add inbound rules, and then we will tell him to allow any source from any port to the okay, we need to tell him any, just a moment again. So we'll tell him, okay, source from any to from any source ports, destination any, but the destination ports, so you have source and source ports, destination and destination ports. So source will be any, and destination will be any. Destination ports will be 445. Okay. So this is an inbound rule. So we are allowing inbound traffic through the port 445, which is for allowing file sharing, I think, or this is port 445 for FTP protocol, maybe. Just a moment, we can just also see port 455 for which it's for no, yes, this is for SMB over IP. This is for the sharing protocol using SSMB, so this is correct. Anyway, so you have created our rule, and then we should begin allowing or going to the Azure virtual machine, but I need to do something else. Okay, just a moment. No, I need to show you all the rule that we should create. Just a moment. So just a moment, here you go. No, I need to go more further. So what we will do, we will now what we will do, we will add this I need to show you all the port. Just a moment. So we will copy this, okay, this one, and then what we will do now, we will copy this one, okay. So you can see here, when we click on it, this one, you will have the share of the Azure storage account, and here we can create anything, and we can you can see it from here. So I need to show you something here, that we can create files on it, but just a moment. So how we can do this? So this, for example, what we will do here, we can go, just a moment, for example, here we'll go to the Azure storage account. Okay, we have created one for the Marvel and one for the DC Comics. Now we can go or access the Azure storage account by using a script, as we have said before, and then we can use it from here. We can tell him file share and then add someone here, okay, and then you can add here. From here you can tell him upload a file, and you can put it in this share, and then you can access it after it is mapped on your file server, okay, or so and mapped here. So for example, if you can see, if we open this one and we open the file share or the map share, you can see the text file, okay. So you can go it from two ways. The one, as I said before, from the share here. So now we can go there, okay. We have said before, here you can do it by this, okay, and after that it will be mapped, okay. You can map to here. So this is how we can use the Azure storage account and map it with a PowerShell script, and upload files from the Azure portal or through the mapped drive. Okay, so here this is what I have been discussing. Here I need to show you all the last step of how we can export our Active Directory objects. So here we will go to the Marvel domain, and then we will run a script, or we run a PowerShell command to export all of the Active Directory objects in the Marvel domain. So now we open the PowerShell, and then we will run it as administrator. Then we need to go to the desktop. Okay, here I am going to my desktop, and then I will run the command which will export all of the Marvel domain Active Directory objects in a CSV file, and it will be put on my desktop. So here is the command, it's CSVD. This is a command to export all of the Active Directory of Marvel. I just need to okay, here you go, this is it. I will show you all the result at the end. But this is for Marvel. As for DC Comics, I need to change just the OUs, or the organizational units, just to reflect the correct we will export the DC Comics Active Directory objects, so we need to change the organizational units structure. So now we will export it. We will do this for the DC Comics or for the Marvel domain, so I think this is done already. And then we will go to the Marvel domain and do the same. Okay, so at the end we have exported all of this. I will show you all a small what appears after the export of the both Active Directory objects for the DC Comics domain and the Marvel domain. So we can see here, for example, that the DC Comics, here we go, sorry, so this is the one that we have exported. So here we can see that this is all of the Active Directory objects. We can see that there are computers. For example, these are computers, okay, the name of the computers, and for example we have organizational units, okay, this is computers. We have groups, okay, here, okay, this is the group, for example, for internet, okay. So this is all of the Active Directory groups, objects, users, computers. As we see here, this is all of it. So this is a complete backup of our Active Directory objects. They are exported and you can import them back. So this is a complete backup of our Active Directory objects. So we have done this for the so we have this done it for the the DC Comics and for the Marvel domain. So this is it. I just need to show you a last video concerning the dashboard, or how to create or customize the dashboard. So let's see how this will be done. We will go to the Azure and then we will log in. Okay, just a moment. And then so here we can see that we will go to the dashboard and then we can begin, tell him edit to customize it. Here we have a lot of dashboards. I need to delete all of this excess dashboards. I need only one dashboard to be available, and then I will customize it. So here you will edit this dashboard. You can see that you have a lot of things to be added. You can add the clock, you can add resources, you can add users and groups, you can add a lot of things. So here I just need to have certain things to appear. So here I will first rename the dashboard to reflect my status or my domain, Marvel, or this you can name it not Marvel domain. You can tell him Marvel and DC United. This will be more relevant according to our lab and our scenario, lab name and scenario. So here we have done it. Okay, and then I need to get off this, remove this from dashboard. I don't need this ad or advertisement. I will also remove these tutorials, and then I will delete the other dashboards. So I need to delete them all. Okay, I will delete every one of them. Okay, and then delete. Okay, and then delete. Okay, and then delete also. And then we have only one dashboard. Then we can begin editing this dashboard. We can see here that this dashboard contains the virtual networks, the availability set, the storage accounts. We can add, for example, here the clock. Okay, if you tell him add, we can add the clock. It will appear here, and then we can customize it to reflect our Cairo time zone. You can make it 12 hours system or 24 hours, and then we'll add something called markdown. So here, as we can see, it's by blocks, or it takes a lot of blocks anyway. So here we can add a title, for example, your title. For example, I here add I am IT manager, and then I will add the a relevant subject. For example, I will show you all just for a moment. You can put here an HTML file, you can put some data, written data, anyway. So I just need to put a little bit of a description of what I am doing in this lab. So I put my title, and then I put the subtitle, and then we'll put the data that we need. I think this will not work anyway, so let's put it here. Okay, so we'll do it back. Here we'll put the title IT manager, and then we'll put Karim Raouf. So here we can see that this is the title. We can put it, or we can edit it. We put Marvel Heroes here. We put a description. Okay. I'll load a little bit of description. This is the lab test for creating Marvel domain and heroes. Okay, and adding scripts and users and groups to it. Then done. So now we have done our little description. We can just drag it and drop it. Okay, here we can also control the size of the box that contains the, for example, the time or the time zone. We can make it smaller or bigger. So here, for example, I need to remove this marketplace from the dashboard, and as for the service health, also I will remove it, or I can just drag and drop it. Service health, this is will give me a summary of the status of my Azure cloud items or the Azure services. Okay, because sometimes the Azure services, as you can see here, I told him to make it one by one box, so this decreased the size of the time zone. It's a little bit smaller now, in a small cube or a small rectangle. So we can name 2 by 2, so it make it more larger, and this will be 2 by 2, make it larger. So now we can see that we have a larger so now we have our dashboard complete. I have done customization. Okay, so this is how we can customize. You can add different things here, but this is what I need. Here, for example, I can add resource group. Here I can add all of the resource groups in one place, for example. Here we can add all resources or resource groups. We can add all of them. You can see here it's larger. Here you can see that we will contain our resource groups, Marvel domain, and you can have DC Comics also, but it's larger. I will just remove it, and then I will just drag and drop everything back to normal. This is the best customization I have found. This is more simple, and it will contain everything I need. All of my resources, Azure resources, will appear here, and this is the description, and this is the time zone, and this is the service health or the different Azure service health status, or service health's status. So here you can add a lot of things. You can add the marketplace, you can add a lot of things here. Just name it and then add it. So for example, I can add here the support. So if I want to talk to the support now, we can call them from here. I just need to remove this because it is a duplicate one. So now we have done our customization, and that's it, guys. Okay, this is the customization, and by this we have finished our lab, our Marvel and DC United lab. This is the last video in the series, and then we will begin the upcoming video. I will make a small infographic summarizing all we have done in this lab, and then after that we'll begin a completely new series of playlist, or a complete newly playlist, which is called Mass Effect playlist. This playlist will discuss the BitLocker and how we can implement it, and how not only to implement it, and with the help of a utility called mbam, how we can monitor the BitLocker encryption implementation, and how we can get reports from mbam utility, how we can use it. mbam, it's a very good or a very useful utility to get reports for which PCs have BitLocker implemented on them. How this also can help us to get the recovery keys and a lot of things. So wait for me until the upcoming video. See you all the upcoming video. Hope this video was informative for you all, and I would like to thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.